Hey, good morning, everybody. All right. So, I wanted to make sure you all knew today at 12 o'clock Eastern, we are going to go live. Hey, Steve, you're back, brother. What is going on? So, we're going to go live today at 12 o'clock Eastern, and we're going to hit, we'll be on IEI News Live. So, hopefully, I have a link to the IEI News Live program down below. Hopefully you can handle that one and click on that and join me at 12 o'clock Eastern today. What I want to do for IAEI News Live is just go over a lot of the changes that have happened over the last 2 weeks. Just have a post 2026 second draft meeting review. Hey, good morning. Is it Omer? Marat? Omer, good morning, sir. So I just want to do a quick overview of what went on last week. Figure for IAEI. We had all of IAEI code panel members were in place and working hard on each of the code making panels. We'll take a look at some of the significant discussions that occurred last week. You know, there's a lot to be learned, even if something doesn't make it into the second draft. You know, you have to always be mindful that we're fluid right now in the code. But there were a lot of really good discussions going on. So I figured I would hit that, and then, before the code panel meetings, if you recall, on IAEI's YouTube site, we were focusing on elevators. Ellen Bernstein in the house. Some better than others, absolutely. Hey, Alan, good morning, sir. Good to see you online. I'm back in the saddle. I'm back at home, thank God. But it was a long 2 weeks. I'll tell you that much. A long 2 weeks. A lot of things going on. A lot of discussions out in the hallways at the coffee pot. A lot of I think significant changes that even if they don't occur this cycle, you know, Steve, like you said, some changes are better than others, but even if they don't make it through, I think the stage is set for a 2020. No, I guess that would be 2029, right? Every 3 years. Geez, oh man, 2026 and then 2029. Man. And right after, you know, Steve, what's hilarious is right after we will be published. In fact, what's really funny is I've already created a Word document of proposed changes for 2029. I mean, man, that's just insane. It's absolutely insane. But I have the link down below for the session today at 12 o'clock. Hopefully, Steve, you made it home safely and all that jazz. One of the things that for the last day on panel 10, that's right. Last day on panel 10, let me open up. We had some discussions. I'll tell you what we talked about. We had some I forgot to reopen. There's a few things I forgot to reopen. One of them was one of those dealt with the service entrance conductors, overhead conductors. That's what it was, and we removed it. We removed adequate mechanical strength. So in 230.23, In 230.23, we had a second revision, and I'd love to have everybody else's opinion on this one. In fact, the committee statement's not even complete. We intended to move the mechanical strength in 230.23a. It says conductors shall have a sufficient ampacity to carry the current for the load as calculated in accordance with Article 120, parts 2 through 5, and have adequate mechanical strength. And that was what it said. So what we ended up with, and in most of these locations where we had the discussion of, when we said, like, you have to calculate the load in accordance with Article 120, parts 2 through 5. We ended up saying, look, it doesn't make sense to say parts 2 through 5. It's Article 120. You go back to Article 120 and you calculate the load, period. And we don't have to tell you to go to Article 120. So what we did in the positive text was we changed this. We got rid of the Article 120 in positive text. We put it in as an informational note, just in case you don't know where to go for calculating load calculations, because it did move from 220 to 120. So we put an informational note that said, see Article 120 for calculating the load supplied by the conductors. But we simplified A just to say, and I'd argue that you don't even need it. But we said conductors shall have an ampacity not less than the calculated load. I mean, that seems to be a no-brainer to me. Any conductor that is delivering current to a load has to have adequate ampacity. So, and this is in 230.23a, which is in part 2, overhead service conductors. So, oh man, I've updated all my software. So in any case, we got rid of the mechanical strength, and I'm telling you what we intended to do. I wrote some language, and none of us recall this ever being brought back up again. But our intent was to bring it back up, and we were going to add a new 230.21 conductor mechanical strength. And remember, in 230.21 would be an overhead service conductor. So we're talking about the overhead service conductors. And the concern is that the overhead service conductors have to have adequate mechanical strength. We removed it out of 230.23, but there were a few people who were a little nervous about that. And we said, you know what, here's what we'll do. We'll come up with language and we'll add it in. Well, and that didn't require me to reopen. That would have just been a motion at the table. I did, here's a stab at some language. Alan, man, she said, works for me. Make a motion when we finish task group 1 this morning. I never made a motion. And everybody that was on this was Alan. Doug Smith was on it. I think David Williams was on it, on this email string. Kevin Arnold was on it because he's my principal. So anyway, we completely forgot to make a motion to add a 230.21 conductor mechanical strength. And what it was going to say, I'll put it in the chat. I'm going to throw in a comment what we were planning, 230.21 conductor mechanical strength. There it is. That's what we were planning to do. All right, so I was going to say conductor mechanical strength, overhead service conductors shall be capable of withstanding the mechanical stresses placed upon them from overhead service applications. The problem that we had, and there was a public comment. Which one was it? No, it wasn't Jeff. Yeah, it was a correlating committee note saying what we had to do was get rid of anything that there was. So it said, first the word that we used was sufficient ampacity. And we had to get rid of the word sufficient because it's vague and unenforceable. And the other one was adequate. Adequate mechanical strength. Adequate's unenforceable. So what I did was in here I wrote, overhead service conductors shall be capable of withstanding the mechanical stresses placed upon them for overhead service applications. I got rid of the word adequate from adequate mechanical strength, but I would still ask, what does it mean? Right? I mean, I think it's fair to ask the question, how do you enforce this? Even with the language that I came up with. I forgot to make the motion, and we ended up, we don't have a requirement now for overhead service conductors to have adequate mechanical strength. Probably should be a simple requirement anyway. I mean, anyway, and the other comment that was made that they usually have that guy wire that comes down or something that holds the conductor, and it's not being. Maybe that's what it should say. Maybe in reality, and I thought we had this somewhere, Alan or Steve or one of you guys might know, isn't there a requirement for a luminaire not to be supported by the conductor? Maybe that's what we need in this overhead conductor application, service conductor application, is that it can't be the conductor should not support itself. There should be some other method that supports the conductor. I don't know, but in any case, that was oops, I forgot. And when we got done early, but I think we were all fried. It was a Saturday. It was a Saturday late afternoon, and I think after 3 days, and I know me, after 2 weeks, I was looking for an airplane. So in any case, 230.31 size and ampacity. 230.31A probably should just go away. I mean, all conductors need to have an ampacity not less than the calculated load. And maybe it's just because this is the only place we don't have a general requirement. And in 230, we should have in 230, in part 1, general requirements, we should just basically say all conductors have to have a minimum ampacity to carry the load calculated, the calculated load. And we calculate load in Article 120 now. Well, it was 220, now it's 120. I don't mean, so in any case, we have a method in the code to calculate the load currents. But we don't have anything in the general requirements that speaks to it. That should be just a general requirement that all conductors, all service conductors, shall have an ampacity not less than the calculated load, period. And then when you go to the individual items, like I believe it is in service equipment, overcurrent. So we have general requirements in part 1. Part 2 is overhead service conductors. That's where we're at. Part 3 is underground service conductors. There's a size and ampacity there in 230.31. What does that one say? That says underground service conductors shall have an ampacity not less than the calculated load. Okay. Yeah, and we said the same thing. So overhead conductors and underground service conductors have the same language in it. So what's the third one? Part 4 is service entrance conductors. Let's take a look at the minimum size and ampacity. That's 230.42. Now this one's a little bit more complicated. It says service entrance conductors have to have an ampacity not less than the maximum calculated load to be served. Now this says maximum calculated load. Why doesn't the other two say maximum calculated load? I didn't pick up on that during the meeting. Probably should make them all be consistent. Conductors shall be sized. This is the general. Conductors shall be sized not less than the largest. Okay, so what we do for service entrance conductors is we size them. Remember, we do the continuous and non-continuous, and then we do the application of adjustment or correction factors. So, and then the ampacity shall be determined from 310.14 and comply with 110.14c. So we don't have that in the others. The maximum current of busway shall be that value for which the busway has been listed or labeled. And then we do continuous and non-continuous. And then application of adjustment or correction factors. And you have to do those two calculations to determine which one establishes the larger conductor size. You don't have to do that for underground or overhead service conductors. So that's the difference when we get to service entrance conductors. And you'd have to look back at the definition to understand where the service entrance conductors begin and end, right? And then we did in these 230.46 spliced and tapped conductors, we deleted the shall be listed because the listing requirement is up above. Oh, let's go up above. Yeah, so 230.2, what's in Terra is not looking right. I'm going to go to globals. Uh, 230.2, there's Article 250. I need 230. I'm looking for, so what we did, and the reason I'm looking at this is because we made changes in the listing requirements. And what's in Terra is not what everyone else recorded. Terra is the software that we use when we're in the process of making changes to the National Electrical Code. And I am not seeing... I'm looking in global, so there's a couple places within Terra that you can see changes. And I'm going to look at details. Now, ballotable details are in a different area. I wonder if I can search Control F. No, that was ungood. Oh boy. I hope I can get it back now. Where's it at? Crud. Let me hit escape. There we go. I'm back. Detail view. Okay. There's 210. There's all of our ballotable details in Article 210 are there. There's 646. 344, 267. I'm not seeing it. Unless they're just not done putting it in. But what we ended up with on the listing requirements, we put everything into the .2 like we're supposed to. Yeah, it's not in ballotable details. We put everything in .2 and made that happen. So 230 cleaned up. We cleaned up 230.82. Wait till you see 230.82. And we cleaned that up. We created a 230.68 for meter sockets. Meter sockets shall not be considered service equipment, and then meter sockets shall be rated for the voltage and current rating of the service. We added in there too. We made a change to that. That's not what we came up with. My issue with the meter sockets was sizing the equipment. If I size it to the rating of the service, for a fire pump, it's much larger. Anyway, that is sort of the 230. Then we in 240. Here's what we did in 240. I think we ended the day in 240. No, we were going back and cleaning up. So I think in my last little session on Friday morning, I pretty much summarized the stuff that happened, the major items that happened in 240. So you could check that video out. All right. So we're looking good. We are doing good. I think hopefully we'll cover a bunch of the major stuff that happened during the hit the wrong button there. We'll cover some of the major stuff that happened during the first or second draft meeting today at 12 o'clock Eastern. X King, I didn't see your note. Our topic today is, I like the icon, brother. Topic today is going to be just a summary of what happened on the 2026 code during the second draft meetings. We'll talk about some of the major items. There's a few items that I think may present a challenge for inspectors, but we'll take a look. And designers and installers. You know, when code is, when you have language that's not quite clear, it can present a pretty big challenge for us. So in any case, that's what we'll hit that today during our session on IAEI News Live. All right, so that's all I wanted to cover today. I wanted to at least give a little... you know what? I was just looking here. I'll show you something else. In chapter 4, one of the things they did was they renamed 406 to wiring devices. And they have a defined term for wiring devices. We moved in snap switches into Article 406, pulling them out of 404. So if you are familiar with snap switches or you're interested in understanding what the requirements are around snap switches, you're going to want to look in 406 for the next code cycle and not 404. 404 is dedicated to heavy duty type of stuff. So, but I just saw this a few minutes ago as I was scrolling through 406.4. I think it's 4. Nope. They moved it. Remember, it used to be 406.4D4 was the AFC. Okay. 406. What's the number? 406. Here it is. 406.12 is now 406.12, general installation requirements. D is replacements. And 3 is ground fault circuit interrupter protection. Now, remember what this used to say. Let me look. In the 2023 edition, this was 406, I think it's 406.4D3, but I'm going to double check. 406.4, yeah, D3. This is what it used to say. Ground fault circuit interrupter protection for receptacles shall be provided where replacements are made at receptacle outlets that are required to be so protected elsewhere in this code. Ground fault circuit interrupters shall be listed. So that basically addresses if you have a receptacle, if you're replacing a receptacle, then it needs to be GFCI protected. Where the outlet box will not, and there's an exception, where the outlet box will not permit the installation of the GFCI receptacle, the receptacle shall be permitted to be replaced with a new receptacle of the existing type where GFCI protection is provided and the receptacle is marked GFCI protected and no equipment ground in accordance with this. So it says if you can't fit it in the box, you're going to have to put it upstream somewhere. The receptacle shall be permitted to be replaced with a new receptacle of the existing type where GFCI protection is provided and the receptacle is marked GFCI protected and no equipment ground in accordance with. So they made this change. So now let's take a look at what Terra did in this. What it says now is it says ground fault circuit interrupter protection for receptacles shall be provided where replacements are made at receptacle outlets that are required to be so protected elsewhere in this code. And then they modified the exception. The receptacle shall be permitted to be replaced with a new receptacle of the existing type if it is not possible to provide GFCI protection where all of the following conditions exist. The outlet box size will not permit the installation of the GFCI receptacle. No electrically upstream outlet box will permit the installation of a GFCI receptacle, and a GFCI circuit breaker cannot provide the required GFCI protection. All right, so I guess it makes sense. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. They added some clarity. When I look at the two, there's three did not have the list items. They sort of just did it in words, and what they did this for the 2026 code cycle, they cleaned up that exception. So I guess that makes sense. When I first read it, I was like, this doesn't look right. But I get it now. So a thing to remember for switches 404, and there's a bunch of new articles. Oh man! So let's take a look. Let's just take a look at articles. 120 is branch circuit feeder and service load calculation. So they moved everything from 220 to 120. 130 is energy management systems, which used to be energy management. Energy management. Was it chapter 7? Yeah, chapter 7. Article 750. So they moved that up to chapter 1. In chapter 2, Article 206 is remote control and signaling circuits. So we have a 200, use and identification of grounded conductors. We have a 206, remote control and signal circuits. We have a 242. Wait, we have a 240 over current protection, 242 over voltage, 245 over current protection for systems rated over 1,000 volts. We have a 265 branch circuits over 1,000 volts, 1,500 volts. We have a 266 feeders over 1,000 volts, 1,500 volts. We have a 267 outside branch circuits and feeders over 1,000 volts, 1,500 volts. We have a 268 services over 1,000 volts, 1,500 volts. And we have a 270 grounding and bonding of systems over 1,000 volts AC, 1,500 volts DC. Salute to the medium voltage team for creating new articles. Now, what I'm curious is how big are these articles? Let's take a look at 265 branch circuits. It's a relatively short article. So I wonder, I got ratings, branch circuits, supervised installations. All right, so let's take a look at, let's look at chapter 3. We have, let's do this. I'll move this over here. And where is, uh-oh, I heard something. Beeples. Those listed GFCI accepted obstacles could be overcome. One or the other, especially in locations required because of water, should be the AHJs. Yeah, Steve, here's what I think. The exceptions that are there, I agree with you. It would be very hard to not provide GFCI protection. I mean, even if you think about it, you go back to the panel board where you start. If you can't fit a breaker in there, you put a receptacle. Right? I mean, you just say, hey, I'm going to come out of here, go to a receptacle outlet, and then feed on from the circuit from there. But the challenge there is, in those older installations, sharing those neutrals, bud. That is the cross to bear right there. All right, I'm going to bring NFPA link over here. All right, so let's take a look at chapter 3. Chapter 3, we have a 300, 305, 310, 312, 314, 15, 20, 22, 24, 26, 30, 32, 34, 33, 35, 36, 348, 350. I'm just looking at if there's any new articles, and chapter 3 is full of articles. 362. I don't see anything. I don't see anything jumping out at me in chapter 3. Holy cow! Chapter 3 has a lot of articles. I never really realized how many there were. There are 398. Yep. So nothing in 3. Let's take a look at 4. Chapter 4. 402 switches. I already told you about switches and wiring devices. The shared neutrals. Older panels, yes. Firm obstacle, yep. But box size can be increased. I never thought about increasing the box size, Steve. You're right there. Chapter 4, we talked about 404, moving some things around from 404 switches to 406 is now just wiring devices instead of receptacles, cord connectors, and attachment plugs because they put snap switches in there. 408, 409, 410, 411, 422, 430, 440, 445. Oh, what about transformers? 495. Oh, there is a 495 equipment over 1,000 volts. So, yeah, we have a 495. I thought that was a new article. Why did I think 495 was new? It's not new. They have a new medium voltage listing requirements for breakers and panel board, switchboards, and switchgears and all that jazz. So be mindful of that. That's a significant change. So they have equipment rated not over 15,000 volts. Switchgear and industrial control assemblies operating not over 15,000 volts shall be listed. The listing requirement for this equipment shall be effective January 1st, 2029. So up to 15,000 volts is listing required by January 1st, 2029. And then if it's over 15,000 volts, they gave us to 2032. So listing requirements. 495.3 recondition. Okay, wait. I'm not. I'm looking at new chapters, new articles. So let's move down to chapter 5. Let's come back up to here. Go to chapter 5. 500, 501, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 20, 22, 25, 30, 40, 45. I'm not seeing anything new. Nothing's jumping at me in nothing is jumping out at me in chapter 5. How about chapter 6? Everything looks... I know we moved something out of chapter 7. Well, thank God 650 pipe organs has not moved. Yep. Anyone has seen the new code proposed for 2029? Yeah, it is the proposed structure for 2029. So they're moving a lot around now, Dan. They're moving a lot of the code articles, moved stuff up into chapter 1 where it should be. Added some stuff for medium voltage. I think you're going to end up seeing a new chapter for medium voltage. We're back to where it used to be years ago. But I'm not seeing any big changes in chapter 6. Let's take a look at 7. Now, we already said we moved 750, I think it was, up to chapter 1. We have a 794. Oh, yeah, we have some new stuff in 7. Yep, we've got some new stuff in 7. We have a 772 fire resistive cable systems. We have a 790 now, general requirements for limited energy systems. And then, oh wait, what the heck? Some of the groundwork for that is happening now. Yeah, that's what's happening, Dan. Absolutely. Looks like 790 has been deleted. What did they do with it? What did they do with it? It was there in the first draft, and now it's not there in the second draft. The Correlating Committee has directed the panel to delete Article 790 for correlation. A task group was formed to ensure that all the information in 790 was appropriately... Oh, all right. So they moved all of those general requirements for limited energy into other areas. 794 was also deleted as well. Robert from Omaha. Good morning and salutations. Robert from Omaha, what a great job. Hey, salute, Robert. Look at my new cup. I got this when I was down in, I believe, Bogota, Colombia. It's such a beautiful cup, isn't it? Didn't they do a great job on that cup? What about Article 517? Well, I am glad you asked, Robert. I have not looked at 517, so let us maximize. Let me close that. I'm going to maximize 57. I'm going to take a look at 517. Let us see what they did. Well, we have a 517. Oh, man. So, I don't know why they do this stuff. We have a 517.4 electrical service. I mean, we have service requirements in Article 230. Why would 517 create a section for services. I don't get it. The revision provides the ability for microgrids to act as a source on either side of the transfer switch. This correlates with 99. The requirements are on 5. They're not in 5. That's not good. All right, what this says is additional sources. In addition, I'll take a look at that one too. But there's a second revision. Additional sources. In addition to off-site utility provided electrical service, the following sources shall be permitted to supplement the service to supply the entire electrical load for the facility based on reliability. What the heck does that mean? The following sources shall be permitted to supplement the service. You don't supplement a service and supply an entire load for the facility. It's not a supplement. If it's supplying the entire load, it's not a supplement. I don't get that. Doesn't make sense to me. I could be wrong, but that doesn't make sense. Power production equipment, fuel cell systems, energy storage systems, healthcare microgrid. That doesn't make sense. Capacity of systems. The systems shall have the capacity and rating to meet the maximum actual demand likely to be produced by the connected load on the system. The systems. Oh my God, this is such... I'm sorry, panel 15, I'm sorry. This is poor code. This is poor language. Demand calculations for sizing of the systems shall be based on any of the following: prudent demand factors and historic data. What is that? How do you enforce prudent demand factors and historic data? Prudent demand factors. I can't make this up. Oh my God, Robert. Let's not forget old favorite, double-ended substations. Yes. So, connected load feeder calculations, any combination of the above. OMG. 517.14 is an issue. Wow. Oh, wow. 517.14. I got to make a section in here called load calculations. No, services. I'm putting this up in services. It's just bad code. Look at this. This is insane. I'm sorry, guys. Pasting just got easier. Use Command-Shift-V. I know, I just did that. Command-Option. I already did that. All right. I tell you what. I am glad I wasn't sitting on this code panel because I would have been coming out of my seat. This is second revision 8362. SR 8362. Wow. They are out of control. Permitted to be installed. 517.17. Let's take a look. Oh man, I'm glad you brought this up. Multi-wire branch circuits. The branch circuit serving life, safety, lighting, and power circuits shall not be part of a multi-wire branch circuit. I get that. Who put that in? This revision adds an important requirement that was inadvertently removed when Section 517.26 was modified. Yeah, Robert, I will. I'm going to do a session on healthcare. I am absolutely going to do that. And what I think I'll do is I'm going to try to get somebody else to involved with that. But I'm going to. This is something else. Signs, on-site source. A sign shall be placed at the service entrance equipment, indicating type and location of each on. Here's another one. This is another bad one. Wow. Control C. I'm going to put this in my Word document. This is second revision 8369, SR 8369. Yeah, I definitely need help with that one. What I'd like to do is get somebody who does these, because here's the thing. I have my opinion, but I'd like to get someone else's opinion every now and then too. That just helps with keeping us all honest. All right, so I just put that one in there. So you have to put a sign is not required for battery-equipped emergency luminaires. You have to have a sign at the service equipment indicating the type and location of each on-site power source. Yeah, I could get Brian Rock. He's retired now. We could both have fun with that one. The revision adds an important requirement that was inadvertently removed. All right, Essential 517.29. Man, I'll tell you what. Sources of power 517.30. EES loads shall be served by two or more independent sources. Power sources, independent sources, or sets of power sources and sets of feeders designed to ensure the sufficient reliability to provide. What is sufficient reliability? To provide effective, and what's effective facility operation? Consistent with facility's emergency operation plan, at least one power source shall be on site and sized. Wow, this, I don't know, man. Rogue, they're going rogue. You know what I think Panel 15 needs? People who know how to write code. Wow. That's all I can say is, wow. Independent power sources, EES loads shall be served by two or more independent sources or sets of power sources and sets of feeders. So this is this is in 517.41. Transfer switches have to comply with one of the following. I think we've got some correlation issues on 517. Wow. Robert. Oh, let's take a look at 120 load calculation. Let's see what they did. What healthcare did for. Here we go. Healthcare facilities, Part 5. Receptacle loads. Receptacle loads calculated in accordance with and supplied by branch circuits not exceeding 150 volts to ground shall be permitted to be subjected to demand factors. So they have a receptacle load demand factor. This is for general purpose. For the first 10,000 or less is 100% demand factor. Remainder over 10,000 VA is 20%. Wow, that's a deep cut. specific appliance loads, patient care related electrical equipment. 120 volt 20 amp branch circuits that supply patient care related electrical equipment are calculated in accordance with 120.14a shall be permitted to be subjected to demand factors from table 120.111. So this is specific patient care related electrical use. Number of circuits, the largest. So they removed receptacle. This is patient care related electrical equipment. The first 10 circuits are 100% demand factor. Anything past that is 30% demand factor. There was a presentation. It was based on the Correlating Committee note. Oh, they were supposed to meet with panel 2, and they never did. The chairs of 2 and 15 are directed to form a task group. There was no task group. Yeah. There was no task group made. All right. Well, 517. And it's 120. That's in Article 220. No, it's in 120. The load calculations are now in 120. All right. So that was an interesting exploration of Article 517. All right, guys. Listen, I'm going to head out. There's a lot more to come on the 2026 code cycle. There are some big hitting changes that are coming down the pike. Things that we need to be things that we need to know about. Can't even talk right today. Things that we need to know about, and whether or not they will actually be a part of the 2026 code cycle does not mean they're going to go away if they're not. So keep these on your radar. Keep the thoughts and process in check, and we'll see what happens. All right. I'm going to sign off. Don't forget IAEI News Live today at 12 o'clock Eastern on IAEI's YouTube channel. Go check it out. Take care, stay safe, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks.